Welcome everyone to Joshua's Magic. I'm joined here today by Adam Clayton, or Adam B. Clayton, whatever you're in the mood for. And we're going to be talking about the Parable of Decision, written by J.J. Dewey. And he's over at Molecular Productions, Adam is, and they just released this new video production of the Parable of Decision. So I think we have a short clip, right, Adam?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, and without further ado, here's the clip.
On a certain night, Jim, Mike, Ron, and Dave died. Shortly thereafter, they all found themselves walking on a beaten path. It seemed right to follow the path. Finally, they came to a dividing point. One path veered to the left, the other to the right. They stood a moment, pondering what to do, when suddenly a man in white appeared and gave them instructions.
Well, that was pretty good. I like that one guy. He's really great. That other guy's all right too.
You like the hero's journey, Dave?
I get all the names mixed up. I said Ron, John, whoever. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about the Parable Decision. So if you haven't read it or watched it, go watch it over on Molecular Productions. The link is below, or you can read it if that's your preference on free read below there. But yeah, so it's interesting to see this thing come forward. I had some impression a few weeks ago to like talk with you on one of these videos, and then after that, then you came out with the video. So it was like, okay, so this is the thing we're supposed to talk about.
It's good timing, yeah.
But so yeah, that must have taken a lot of work, huh?
It was probably more than any of the other videos, and part of that was because when we started this project, you remember back in September last year, we shot the pictures, the images for it in what, an hour?
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't really prepared much. I mean, it wasn't well choreographed. If I went back, we could do this a lot better, and it would have made our time in editing a lot less, because we had to do a lot of cutting and pasting, and like the clothing we were wearing didn't fit the scenes, whether they were in hell or heaven and stuff like that. So, and you have to give credit to Annie West, who she spent, I can't imagine the hours she spent editing those images, and we had help from other members in the group, but she did most of the legwork on the images themselves. And at my direction, I was quite a nag. Had kind of an idea of how I wanted, the thing to flow, and so I think, I think it turned out pretty well for what we can do. We don't have the greatest technology, but we have a few things that help us. So
it was pretty good. I like the addition of the D&D table for the planning.
Yeah, we were, when we started looking at that image, it was hard to find, we had these blueprints and these random images, and they just didn't fit very well. And I thought, wait a minute, we have the image. we just have to make the room look a little more dreary. So yeah, it worked well.
So let's get into it, into the story of the parable, and what what inspired you guys to say that was the next thing to do? Let's turn this off.
Yeah, I don't know whose idea it was, but I think it was always kind of out there that, hey, here's this short story. It's pretty powerful, and it's synthetic. It can reach a lot of different groups, I think, and this would be good. It's a little longer than the Seeker's Guide to Soul Contact videos, but and I had done a version of it. I wrote a book, Pep's Herculean Labor, which is based on it, kind of wrote it for adolescents. And so, but I just thought the presentation, it was the perfect presentation to do a short video. So we just kind of collaborated and then presented the idea to the molecular group as a whole, and that's how it started.
So JJ's got a number of stories, but it sounds like the parable of decisions really drawn your attention in particular.
Yeah, I mean, he's got he's got what, 4, 5, 6, 7 parables that he's written, and I think this is probably the most, for me, it stands out the most. I think it's very synthetic in the way it can reach viewers. It's not, you don't have to be a religious person. I know that the term parable could potentially turn off a lot of people because they can connote it with religion. But if you give it the time and actually read it or watch this presentation, you'll see that it can be applied to anybody, and you can be an atheist or you can be a real staunch believer in whatever, and it still has a great meaning. I think you can draw a lot. It just has practical wisdom that anybody can apply in their life about making choices and decisions and what really is a state of peace or a state of misery.
Yeah. It's got those concepts woven in there about, heaven and hell being sort of states of mind versus physical locations. Right.
And the fact that even a physical location as a desirable place, I mean, of course, all of us want to be in a desirable place physically, but even after a time, that can become a hell because we become too accustomed to it. It doesn't stretch us, it doesn't drive us anymore. And so at some point, as Ron, I believe it's Ron in the video, he decides this isn't so great, and so it's time to move on.
Yeah, it's interesting how sort of you can have negative things happen, but they're really getting you to a better place. Like, because then you have to deal with stuff inside yourself instead of just having the outer things be nice.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's where most of our state of peace comes from, right? From the inside. You can have a very peaceful feeling in a very difficult setting, as long as you can center yourself and I think movement and the idea of movement and motion that the parable portrays, I think that's really important. That sometimes the decisions aren't so clear cut. I mean, you can make a very educated decision in life, and sometimes we know, this is the right path, but we choose the other just because we're creatures of habit and we like our vices and whatnot. But sometimes the path isn't really clear, right or left. Well, one leads to heaven, one leads to hell. They have no idea. There's no way they can make a really informed decision.
Yeah.
And so, but the guys that are truly in hell are the ones who can't make that decision. And as long as you're moving and making choices, and I think most of us can really identify that that really is more important than anything, is to keep ourselves moving, keep ourselves making a decision and making corrections as needed. But I think the parable really draws that out. And like I say, it has universal applicability. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to be a spiritual guru or, a believer in God to really have that hit inside and realize that that's a true principle.
It's funny that it's sort of the opposite of a lot of, fundamentalist religious thinking, especially like Christian thinking. And I know fundamentalist isn't exactly the right word, but
sure. Orthodox.
Yeah, orthodox. Like, do this or else you're going to go to hell. It's like, if you make this one wrong decision or don't believe this one sentence, that's the end of it.
Yeah.
And, you know, the parables, like, you know, if you make a wrong turn, like, you know, you can still get to a better place, you know, instead of like, you better get this one thing exactly right, you know, focus on this one detail and everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And what I like about the parable too is that, you know, and we tried to present this in the video, is we kind of went with a slightly religious concept in as the narrative, I guess the angel in white is telling them, you know, what lies on the other side. And so our image of heaven is kind of celestial and kind of, you know, has a religious connotation to it. And hell, maybe not quite so much. It's hard to find good images that are free and that you can.
Well, I noticed a few things you had there, like the skulls. Maybe this was in the lead up to hell, but like the skulls on the road, and there was sort of like a shadow or a demon or something like that.
Because no matter what, when you say heaven and hell, even if you're not, you know, particularly spiritual, you still have those images in your head of what that might look like. And so as the story is developing, then later on when they actually reach heaven, it's like, oh, this is just a really nice place. And they even, at the end of the video, the angel even refers to it as, you know, well, Ron's in a city much like the one you created. So it becomes a city now. It's not, it's no longer heaven, right?
Yeah.
And so it transitions to where I think is more practical for any viewer.
It's funny the juxtaposition too of like making religious sort of stuff more acceptable to people, because a lot of people are, you know, the polling on how many people are religious or go to church or whatever today, especially in the West anyway, has been like going down over the years. And, you know, you sort of throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's like some good stuff with that. But if sort of like negative stuff that people don't like or can't really accept is the thing they're always seeing, then, you know, that's what happens. But with stuff like the parable decision, you know, it's like, oh, maybe there's a different way of looking at religion or these things. And, you know, oh, maybe there's something I missed, you know. This way of reaching people that's not like this is the one thing. You know, it's like the one ring, you know, with some of these concepts.
Yeah, I mean, it's like quoting scripture. Like, I mean, you're immediately going to turn off more than half your viewers, right? Even though there may be great wisdom in an offering there, but and conversely, on the other side, you don't want to turn off religious viewers. You want them to kind of expand, and I think they do. If the people that I've shared it with who are particularly religious, they can see the depth in the parable, and that it goes beyond just the traditional heaven and hell connotations. So I think it works both sides, and I think that's really important to synthesize it and bring it together and get everybody to kind of stretch, you know, their thinking.
That's really it's tough sometimes to know where to reach somebody. You know, it's like you don't know who's really like hardcore dogmatic about religion and who's sort of like, I've talked to people, you know, in the Keys in our group and stuff who, you know, say like, oh, I was always looking for more out of the Mormon church or, you know, whatever. And, you know, if I were to meet these people, you know, at that time, I wouldn't necessarily know, oh, I could reach this person on thing X. I might think like, oh, they're just locked into this thing. And, you know, it's like you've got something that's valuable and you want to sort of connect it with somebody or convey it to them. And you don't know what words are going to like rub them the wrong way and what words they're going to be like, oh, this is interesting.
Yeah, we've hit a trigger note. Now we've traumatized them already, and they haven't even clicked the video yet. And don't you think that it's I don't know. I find it interesting that people, you have to find them at the right time. I mean, don't you think that's a real factor?
Oh yeah, definitely.
And sometimes, and you can't just shove it down their throat.
Yeah.
Like they've kind of got to discover these things. I don't know.
There was this, it was so funny. So I'm in this other spiritual group, and for some reason this came up when I was working at Barnes & Noble in the cafe, which is not a Starbucks, it's a Barnes & Noble cafe. So if you go using that Starbucks gift card there. Anyway, so I was working there, and I was talking to this guy, and he had this professor who I think actually had the same name as me, Joshua. And he was also in the spiritual organization, and he said, you know, and we talked about it and stuff, and it was like, oh, you know, he actually seems interested, because, you know, you can bring up spiritual stuff or just anything, and people just like, oh, whatever.
Nice, yeah.
But so I guess he wound up quitting or something, and he came in one day to like claim his last paycheck or something. I just happened to be at the cash register where he was there. And it was like, oh, you know, maybe I should, you know, bring up to come meet up with us sometime at this place. And I didn't feel to do it. Even though it seemed like, oh, he's really into this, or, you know, connect with him or something like that. But
yeah.
So it's like you say, you know, it's got to be the right time.
The right time, and people like to discover things on their own, because, you know, I've found it's almost like if you're walking and you're carrying the parable of decision in your hand and you accidentally drop it, they're like, what's that? Oh, it's, you know, it's nothing. It's a, you know, it's a story. Then they might be more curious. Whereas if you're just here,
oh, it's nothing. Don't worry about that. It's funny that heaven and hell, you know, in the story, hell is sort of created by inertia or non-initiation or lack of initiation, and heaven is achieved through activity or initiation, you know, your own initiation in the story.
Yeah, I mean, even hell is hell, right? Heaven can be hell. Hell can be hell. It's all about, again, you know, I think it goes back to that idea of movement and activity, staying active. I mean, when do we get depressed in our lives? It's usually because we're not doing something. We're not actively pursuing something, even if it's just routine.
Yeah.
And generally we do better when we do something new and something different. So.
Yeah, reaching people is interesting with parables and you know, I really like JJ's parable of the Cala. That was an interesting one. You remember that?
Yeah. The Cala Within or something.
Yeah. He like directs the force back out or something like that. Maybe I'll put that in the description also. But yeah, well, so it was good talking with you, Adam. Do you have any other upcoming projects Molecular Productions is working on, or anything you want to promote?
No, I need to get back to, I had told JJ that I would do narration for book 2 of The Immortal. I guess book 1's already done, and so I need to get back on and start doing that again. But you know, you mentioned the other parables. That's a good thing to keep going. And you could have a nice playlist of all those parables. So maybe we'll direct it a little bit better next time.
All right, good to see everybody out there. Make sure to check out Adam's video below and the parable. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you want to be notified about future videos. Till then, take care.
Thanks, Joshua.
You're welcome.